Hello, my name is Elijah Walls. May I ask you a question? What are you having for Christmas? A book? A diary? A bike? Maybe a puppy or dog? A cat? Car? Or something? What about DVDs, Blu Rays, maybe CDs, vinyl? You may think to yourself, like, Elijah, like, they're streaming, like, move on from that. Like, I say no, because I'm kind of want to say a little bit of something about physical media. I wanted to say, since these strikes have really boiled over to this point, just because particularly with HBO Max and Hulu have been caught red-handed for removing titles from their streaming platforms. Like every streaming platform does it. Like, no, they removed like exclusives and some originals. Like, it's the equivalent of, I don't know, Netflix removing Ozark from a program. Like a program or film that's tailor-made for that platform, and they're just like written off for tax purposes. But what if you can own it, like I own these DVDs? Like, the point is that it's kind of beyond like residual payments and personal ownership and how much it's kind of costing you. Like, there's quite a lot of like jargon that's going on with physical media, and particularly now that studios like WWE and Disney have said they're no longer doing physical media pressings at all anymore. Well, Disney in some parts of Asia and Australia, like, they stopped doing that, but some rumors suggest they're going to spread into Europe and America. WWE, a big wrestling company, said they're not doing it anymore. So, and also that, of course, they have a thing about writing off films and cancelling films just for a tax write-off. So, I'm going to explain why buying physical media is important and why it matters. Yes, it is sad to see that, unfortunately, physical media, both in film and in music, is hopefully not going away in dinosaurs. But music, it's a different situation, which I'll get into a lot later in the video. But for film, it doesn't look like a very good situation. But I do have something that I like to flex in front of the streamers, as in, you can have those as collectibles, or you can have those as like rare itemeries, or you can have like a foreign print of it, like the Terry Gilliam film, The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, which I actually begged my family to get a DVD of it, since none of the streaming places had it at all, and the DVDs cost like an absolute fortune, and they got a version, I think, from Denmark, but it does still play in English, but it is a fantastic movie, very weird and very fantastic. And it's also got a release on the Criterion Collection, which is like the really high-end stuff of physical media. And speaking of Criterion, there's the Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me, which is a quasi-prequel of the very famous 90s TV series Twin Peaks by David Lynch. So I think it's really a case of not just a sense of like major sense of ownership, but also not a sense of a bragging right, but also as a piece of memorabilia and almost a piece of a history that you personally own, rather than some nasty studio will take it from you. It's something that Christopher Nolan and Guillermo del Toro said, like, on and on again. Like, Christopher Nolan, like he said during the Oppenheimer press tour, that he compares streaming sites as being inherently evil and all that, and they will take away your films, which is something they did do. They still do to this day. Like, if you like download a movie, like with all the special features, with all the features, gizmos and all that, and after the lease expires or after terms and conditions thingajigs happen, they'll just take you away regardless how much progress you made into that film or series. Like, but for like films and for something like this, like, you can again watch it over and over again, regardless of if it's like Annihilation or Violet Evergarden, which in the UK they're both Netflix originals, but I'm not sure how much of the world it is. But in the United States, you probably can easily find this on DVD, and you can also find it. It's also in UK Netflix original, but I think it's just a case of what if it happened if Netflix are doing what they're doing with like Hulu and with HBO Max, then I think it's really high time that you may have to buy physical media. And guess what? Netflix are actually doing it. Like, they've removed their own stuff off Arrested Development, their Netflix produced stuff, And they also removed Power of the Dog by Jane Champion, which is a great movie, by the way, due to a licensing agreement with BBC, who also funded this movie, but most of the blame ended up on Netflix's hand, so BBC doesn't have much to complain about this time around. And again, even during the strikes, there's been a massive hoo-ha about the lack of financial transparency and really poor case of residuals. Like, Matt Damon did say during his Hot Ones interview, like, if, again, like, Annihilation or Violet Evergarden, like, flopped when it came out in cinemas, like, if they were both released in the 90s or 2000s when DVDs and VHSs were a pretty big deal, and Blu Rays, of course, they'll get a second chance. Like, this was like a second chunk of money, but however, when it comes to like Prime, Disney Plus, and Netflix, you're gonna have to like cut your pay like to your server, to your distributor, and all that, to the point you barely get. It's almost like it's a weirdly elitist thing that's going on. Like, some of the new actors are downright struggling to like pay the rent at least. But for something like you have a greater sense of ownership, like they won't remove it or tweak the movie a little bit or something like. I remember the controversy very well of like Bird Box, where they did include footage of a real life train accident that happened, and it slightly butts me out a titty bit because like, how much is that going to affect the story overall? How that's going to affect the movie, like, performance-wise going forward? Like, even in TV, like, even if it's more of a good conscience, like something like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, a really well-known dark comedy series that's still running, even though it started from like the mid-2000s. Had a lot of its episodes removed from Hulu and Netflix just because it did feature a lot of episodes in blackface. Like, totally understandable, just to be a bit more conscious about race and discriminative behavior and very inappropriate jokes or just anything that's in bad taste. But at the same time, it kind of misses the point a little bit. If you know anything about It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, it's basically about four people who own a bar in Philadelphia try to do good to society to only do the opposite and just be even more horrible in the process. Like, I feel like it almost defeats the purpose a little bit, in my opinion. And, like I said, physical media has a greater staying power and greater sense of, physical media has a greater staying power and greater permanence than like streaming films. Like, oh, where can I get a Blu-ray of Violet Evergarden? You can get it online. You can get it probably at your local DVD store. You can get it here or there or on Amazon or just anywhere that sells them. But unfortunately, places like Best Buy in the United States are no longer selling them. I think Target is not doing them anymore. And even where I live in the United Kingdom, my local Tesco's and my Asda does not do DVDs whatsoever anymore, unless there's an occasionally big movie that comes out like Jurassic World or Barbie or Oppenheimer. Again, this is slightly icks me out. Like, it's almost weirdly elitist. Like, although yes, this movie did do not that great in the box office, but you can support it again. Like, give it a second chance, even if you like preferred another film when it came out, or you just weren't feeling it. I think when you watch it again in a DVD format, it feels a little bit more rewarding at best, knowing what we know now about residual payments and how streaming sites basically treated the writers and actors that caused them to strike eventually. Okay, I don't want to like virtue signal too much about physical media, but at the same time, you can have your own library, your own store or something, or a little bit of a poster of a movie as well. Like, instead of like the randomly selected thumbnails like on like YouTube, Netflix, where it changes all the time or looks different at each and every time. But again, like I said, it has more of a permanent staying power. Like, you can easily identify what the movie is without the title. Like, Red Room and The Arm, Twin Peaks, The Adventures. A man in like his 1700s clothing, Baron Munchausen, or something like a high-end, sophisticated sci-fi film with Natalie Portman, directed by the guy who did Ex Machina and Doing Civil War, Annihilation, or again, or a very sophisticated, very high-end anime about a post officer who has PTSD from a military background. Violet Evergarden, like, I feel like it feels a little bit more permanent that you have a permanent poster, a permanent identity, and a permanent image that people would associate the movie or series with. And even in music, even though physical media is a completely different story altogether, there's still going to be a lot more of a really weird situation considering what Spotify has been in trouble with recently. Like, if you don't catch like 1,000 streams a year, then your payment's going to be essentially cut off. Like, from a company that made like a tens of millions of dollars, or one CEO's did like 25 million. Like, I'm going to share the articles down there, as well as like the Matt Damon interview he did at Hot Ones about the importance of physical media, which is a little bit depressing and downright elitist at some point. Like, yes, you can like listen to Beyonce, you can listen to Taylor Swift or Ed Sheeran's, Drake or Bad Bunny, all you like, but there's gonna be like new emerging artists that still need a lot of attention at best. Like, they're not just going to pop up every now and then on TikTok, or they're not going to like blow up because they're like a supporting act or something. And also, again, you have, if you want to support your niche indie, like really out there musician, buy their merch. Like, for example, let's talk about the case of me buying merch and all that from the little French band called M83, who are known for the music Midnight City, as well as a barrage of albums which I really like Dead Cities, Red Seas, Lost Ghosts, Hurry Up We're Dreaming, Before the Dawn Heals Us. And to prove that it's not a case of having a big fan capital over other fans, it's just a case of I just want to support him and support the band as an artist and as a person. Like, for example, I've brought the t-shirt which is from the Junk album, which is a very cool t-shirt I have. I also have one of my two great albums, like Before Dawn Heals Up, which is my favourite from the band, and the more famous one, Hurry Up We're Dreaming. And I even went to their concert, which costed like £40, £50 a head, when I went to the one in Roundhouse London, where they did the Fantasy Tour, which, again, the importance of buying physical media, since I bought that from his official store online, and I bought this when I was watching him at live, which is a brilliant, would recommend. And also something I also brought online, which is again supremely important, is buying some vinyl, which costed like £17, which is an absolute bargain. You and the Night, which is a movie that surprisingly is more available on vinyl for some reason instead of DVD, which, even though the movie did receive mixed reviews, but the music, from what I can tell, and from what I've listened to it, it's absolutely brilliant. So please get You and the Night by M83. But again, this is when a physical media does get a little bit more interesting when it comes to music. Even though, again, like I said, in the case of Bird Box and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where they've ed entire episodes out, or certain segments of scenes out because of like cultural insensitivities or just in bad taste, what if it gets a little bit weird? Like, we've all heard of like Lady Gaga in her art pop album, where she did remove R. Kelly from the Do What You Want With My Body, which ironically was not a good song to be associated with someone who's featuring a literal paedophile. But again, since I do follow M83 on Reddit, there's some confusion, particularly at Spotify listing, because the big song from this album is Midnight City. Now it's, for some reason, it's on Before the Dawn Heals Us, and of course the tracks are being swapped, as an asterisk or the star emoji in this track list is now being swapped with Midnight Cities in this album. Like, I'm not entirely too sure if it's like a technical glitch or something, or Anthony Gonzalez just completely trolling his own fan base at this point, or he's teasing up some Anthony's version of Before Dawn Heals Us. Or again, this kind of feels a little bit weird, because in my opinion, even though yes, Midnight City is a great song, it does fit the vibe of Hurry Up We're Dreaming a lot more, since I did listen to it a lot back in the day. And I think it didn't quite fit the more darker, more gloomier, and more atmospheric route that the Before Dawn Heals Us album did, which in my opinion, I'm not entirely too sure if it's some weird label dispute or something, or he had more creative control or something, but it does seem a titty bit weird. I'm not cancelling MA3 or anything or calling him out. It's just, I just want to have a little bit more clarity, like whether this was a glitch, whether this was intentional or not. So my closing statement, like, you may like to stream because you want have some downtime, or because you're bored, or you have a long day at work or something, but again, I feel like you can have a piece of like film history on your hands, or a piece of film memorabilia. Like, again, these were like really expensive, these ones. Like, I don't know how much this cost, but I imagine it's really expensive, but now it's on Criterion list. This one's in Criterion list, of course, but I remember paying like £10 or £20 for it. Like, you could like earn, you can like, this could be like a currency of some sort. Even though, again, in the music industry, like, vinyl is absolutely huge at the moment because for nostalgia reasons, or a form of like hauntology, where it comes back almost in a way to haunt someone in a weird sense of a way. But even though if the revival of vinyl does teach us anything at all, in my opinion, like, DVDs and Blu Rays are going to come back probably bigger than ever, like we did see with vinyl. Like, Harry Styles and Taylor Swift are pretty much outsold vinyl than CDs of their more recent work, which is, again, a very weird fact if you said to someone 10 years ago, when Taylor Swift was obviously huge, and One Direction, where, like I said, everyone was still buying on CD. But again, in my opinion, it is vital that you do support your favorite band or from CD vinyl, because Spotify is just being a bit of a backstabbing asshole for some reason. Sorry to say that, but I had to say it. But again, DVDs, like Matt Damon says, they're basically a bigger chunk of money for the creatives behind it. Like, again, streaming has now been more frowned upon, not just through the lack of quality, of course, but also just on the sole purpose that it's just not transparent anymore. Like, it's just the communication is not there anymore. Like, we did see on Hulu, and we did see on HBO Max, like, they keep, and also a little bit on Netflix with Power of the Dog situation, as in they're just keeping like pretty wild promises. They're not keeping them anymore. Like, oh, we have all the greatest films in the past and best contemporary films in right now, but we're going to remove them. Like, again, you can watch Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me at any time, even when it gets removed from Netflix or Prime, or like I said earlier, it's not easily available to find on streaming. Like, it feels weirdly elitist. Like, the more popular the movie, like in the past, the more likely it's going to be popped up in the streaming servers. It's just how the algorithm works, and that's how democracy works, which is a little bit sad. But again, just support whoever. Like, again, you own it. No one's going to take it away from you. And best of all, if a studio were to write it off, at least you have the staying power. Unless if you're David Zaslav, who's basically a walk-in, I want to be fired person. So, what do you think about my comments about the importance of physical media? Comment down below, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and like this video and dislike rolls, and bye.